Giovanni would never have imagined that that single evening could open the doors to such an unexpected future. After that emotional meeting in the alley, family life began to take a completely new turn. From that day on, the relationship between father and son became even deeper, almost as if a silent awareness had united their hearts, the desire to lend a hand to those who, like those stray dogs, seemed to have lost every possibility of receiving love and protection. The following days saw Luca dedicate himself with renewed energy to his mission. Every afternoon, right after school, the boy rushed to the degraded neighborhood to look for those forgotten hearts, always carrying with him a small backpack full of hopes and a few pennies. Giovanni, meanwhile, had made his home a real headquarters for the shelter he dreamed of creating. Family dinners, previously hastily carved out between one repair and another, became moments of sharing and reflection, where they talked about dreams and the difficulties of helping those in need. On one of these evenings, while the soft light of the sunset colored the kitchen, Giovanni explained to Luca the importance of a constant commitment. "Son," he said in a firm but sweet tone, "it is not enough just to feed them, we must also think about the future of these animals. We must create an environment where they can feel safe, receive the necessary care and, why not, find a family that loves them one day." Luca listened enchanted, already imagining a place full of warmth and smiles. That conversation was the seed of an ambitious project, which slowly took shape and transformed into a dream shared by the entire community. As the months passed, the small initiative spread in a surprising way. The photos that Giovanni had posted on social media, portraying little Luca intent on distributing food and affection to dogs, had touched the hearts of thousands of people. A lady from the neighborhood, always passionate about animals, came forward to offer her old van and transform it into a first transport for animals in need. With that contribution, the father-son duo was able to start saving not only dogs, but also cats, birds, and small rodents that wandered aimlessly. The shelter took the name, the House of Four-Legged Friends, in a moment of particular inspiration. On a cold winter morning, as the sun peeked out from behind the clouds, Giovanni and Luca, supported by a dozen volunteers, laid the first brick of the new building. Every stone, every piece of wood, seemed to carry with it a fragment of hope and the memory of that first evening when a child's courage had broken down the barriers of prejudice. Luca, now in his teens, never lost his sensitivity and, over the years, became a sort of spokesperson for animal rights. During school, he organized small meetings in which he explained to his classmates the importance of compassion and responsibility towards every living being. His story, initially secret and reserved, had now become a source of inspiration for many, pushing other people to get involved and give their contribution. One of the most significant episodes occurred on a warm summer evening, when unexpected news spread around the city. A group of bandits had begun to exploit the strays' situation to extort money from passers-by. Despite the growing tension, Luca and some volunteers decided not to let themselves be intimidated. They organized night patrols and, armed with torches and courage, patrolled the streets around the shelter, ensuring safety not only for the animals, but also for the residents of the neighborhood. That gesture of unity made many understand how the shelter had become a symbol of hope and rebirth. The transformation of the shelter continued with the arrival of new friends and supporters. Among them was Marco, a veterinarian with a great passion for animals and a personal story of sacrifice. Marco decided to collaborate for free on the project, offering medical visits and treatments to those in need. His days alternated between the clinic and the shelter, where he brought serenity and expertise. On a cold November morning, during a checkup, Marco told Luca how, during his childhood, he too had desperately tried to save an animal in difficulty. Those words strengthened the bond between the young people and their mentor, underlining how, deep down, the human heart always knew how to find the way to restore love and hope. The local community also became a bearer of this spirit. Small shops, bars, and artisans began to contribute, donating materials and services for the renovation of the shelter. In exchange, an annual event was organized, La Festa degli Amici, which soon became one of the most anticipated events in the area. On that day, the streets filled with stalls, music and laughter, while families gathered to celebrate together solidarity and love for animals. Luca, now the protagonist and symbol of change, actively participated, telling his story to anyone who would listen, with contagious and sincere enthusiasm. There were moments of difficulty and discouragement. Bureaucracy and administrative rules sometimes slowed down the progress of the work, and Giovanni often found himself having to deal with skepticism and criticism from those who did not believe in such a transformation. But every time distrust was felt, Luca, with his determination, reminded everyone that every small gesture counts. "Look," he would say with a smile that would brighten even the grayest days, "even a drop can make a difference in the sea of life." The boy's words spread like a hymn to hope, and soon even those who were initially skeptical were won over by the strength of that positive energy. Innovation never stopped at the physical shelter. Giovanni and Luca began to use social media strategically, turning their story into a real awareness campaign. With videos, interviews, and daily updates, they showed how a small act of kindness could multiply into a wave of concrete changes. The narrative became increasingly interactive. There were those who said they had adopted an animal thanks to a post, those who donated materials or money to support veterinary care. The stories were woven into a great fabric of solidarity, where each personal anecdote gave life to a mosaic of humanity and compassion. The evolution of the project also led to new collaborations. A group of young designers offered to renew the image of the shelter, creating a logo that would symbolize rebirth and unconditional love for animals. That same graphic became the distinctive mark of the fundraising campaigns and gadgets distributed during La Festa degli Amici. Another important initiative was the creation of a dedicated blog, in which Luca wrote with sincerity and a pinch of irony about the shelter's daily adventures. Between funny stories, confessions, and reflections, the blog became a point of reference for those seeking inspiration and wanting to understand how to transform difficulties into opportunities. The obstacles could not be ignored: the biting cold of winter, the difficulty in finding resources, and the fear that, somehow, bureaucracy could suffocate the project. However, each challenge was faced with the courage of those who know that every battle, however hard, has a profound meaning. Giovanni always reminded Luca that true strength is not in never falling, but in knowing how to get up every time fate pushes us to the ground. Those words, dictated with the weight of experience and the tenderness of a father, became a mantra for all those who participated in that great adventure. Luca's personal transformation was remarkable. From a shy and reserved child, he had grown into a young man who knew how to express his emotions with clarity and passion. His initiatives were always accompanied by a sincere smile and a light in his eyes that spoke of a world in which kindness still had the power to transform reality. The shelter, from a simple idea born in an alley, had become the symbol of an entire community, ready to fight for a better future for every living creature. And so, on an autumn evening, while the leaves were falling lightly on the sidewalks, Giovanni and Luca found themselves in front of the entrance to the shelter, proudly looking at the fruit of their efforts. In front of them, a row of animals, each with a different story but united by a common destiny, welcomed them with looks full of gratitude. In that moment, every effort, every obstacle overcome, seemed to disappear, leaving room for a pure feeling, that of having made a difference. The story of La Casa degli Amici a Quattro Zampe is the living proof that every small act of kindness, when shared with the heart, can transform into a movement capable of changing the world. Giovanni and Luca, with their determination and their love for life, have taught all of us that there are no insurmountable obstacles when you act out of love. And while the shelter continues to grow, welcoming more and more four-legged friends and becoming a point of reference for those seeking hope and solidarity, their story remains a beacon of light, an invitation to never give up, even when the streets seem dark and dead-end.